Okay, so now we can see we have this whole statement over here, which is our select that we're joining onto these different tables. I actually don't want to run this whole statement all the time because it's quite a lot of code I have to type out all the time. I'm not going to remember this, especially for a new person that's starting in your company. They have to remember all of these over here. So if you have something that's a lot easier, it's going to make their lives and your life a lot easier. So we are going to create a view. It's very similar to a table with the exception that the data gets generated by the code which gets run in the background. So like we have this code here which we run. Whenever someone calls the view, it's going to run this code and then return the results like a normal table. So we're going to take this, you're going to put in create view. I'm putting DBO, which is your schema. The schema is just a way of grouping your objects, but we're not going to talk about that too much now, but I'm just putting in DBO, view, movies, and characters. I'm going to run that. And now, instead of having to type out all of that code, I can just say select star from DBO movie characters. And there you can see it actually returns all those rows. I don't have to remember that entire statement. It's a lot easier, and I can just give it to someone else. So I just select from that view and I get all the data that I need. I don't have to remember all those complex joins. And that is a very simplistic set of joins that you can see. It's only 3 tables being joined together. Some organizations are joining like 10, 15 tables, so it becomes very complicated and very hard to remember. So views do make it a bit easier. Views do have some performance issues as well. So when you get to that point where you're joining 10 tables, you will start getting some performance hits, but that's a different topic for a different video. So views are great, but there are also other objects which actually make your life a lot easier. So stored procedures is one of those ones that you are going to use a lot. Okay, so we're going to create this stored procedure over here. Create procedure. We have dbo.find characters by movie name. And then the next time I've got at title, and I've got that varchar 100. And what this means is that the person is actually going to pass in a particular name. It then goes to our select statement, and you can see there's an at title at the bottom, which allows people to pass in different values into the stored procedure. At the bottom, you can see I have this exec statement that's going to be an execute. So I'm going to execute dbo.find characters by movie name. I'm passing an Iron Man, and there we can see all the characters which were in the Iron Man movie. So again, you can see it's very simplistic. It's very easy for someone to understand. They just pass in the name, gets all the movie characters. They don't have to remember any complex joins. So developers love stored procedures. They can just pass in a movie title, gets all the data back for them. Don't have to remember all table structures. It's going to be used a lot, so remember this part. It's very important. So now we've seen views, we've seen stored procedures, but we can actually use them together. So over here, I'm going to create find characters by movie name using view. So the same thing as passing in a title. And instead of doing all those joins that I did earlier on, I'm just going to say select character name from DBO view movies and characters, and then pass in the title. Run this, and you can see when I do the execute, returns the same result. So you can see you can create a view to make your life easier, so you don't have to do all those joins, and we can use that same view in a stored procedure, which again then makes your life in a stored procedure a lot easier. And of course, like everything, nothing is perfect, so sometimes we want to alter a view, so we'll just type in the word alter view, and we can see we can type in the text that we need, and when you run this, it will actually change the actual definition of the view itself. So this is important to note. I'm changing the view. I haven't changed anything in the stored procedure. You can see the stored procedure is only returning one row now because I put in a top 1 in the view. Now because the view is only returning 1, the stored procedure is also only returning 1. So you can see that this can have a knock-on effect when you have a view in a proc and someone makes a change, or a view in a view, for example, which happens a lot. Sometimes you have a view in a view in a view in a view in a view, and no one really knows where the data is coming from. So one change at the bottom can actually have a big effect on everything else on the higher layers. So just keep that in mind when you're using views in procs, or views in stored procedures, or views in views in views. It does have a knock-on effect. So use it wisely. And the last structure I actually want to go into is a function. Now a function is very similar to a stored procedure. One of the benefits of a function is that you can actually use it within your select statement, like I will show you over here. But one of the things that you need to remember the function is that a function only works on what I call your presentation layer, which is the top layer. So what you're seeing in front of you is your presentation layer. It doesn't change the data. So when you try to do an update or a delete statement in your function, it's not going to work because unfortunately functions are not allowed to change your data. Okay, so keep that in mind. Stored procedures can, functions can't. And functions can be used in your select statement, a stored procedure can't. So we're going to create a function called if in characters. We're passing in the title like we did earlier on with the store procedure. And over here we're specifying returns varchar 2000. And I'm going to declare varchar names, which is going to be the variable I want to return. And you can see over here I'm putting select at character names equal to string ag. So what is string ag over here? So first thing, let's maybe just look at string ag on itself. So string ag itself is a function. So if you look at this particular table over here, we have multiple characters, right? So if I was to run the select statement as is, you can see it returns multiple character names. But now for this particular function, our requirement from our user, for example, is to have all the character names in one row. So what we can do is take string ag, and you can see you just pass in the column name, you pass in the delimiter, and voila, it's taken the multiple rows and put it all into one column. So we're going to take the same thing, we're going to put it over here within our function. We're going to say at character names equals string ag. So what that means, it takes the value that was shown to us, and instead of showing it to us, it puts it into this particular variable. So now that variable has been set, and at the bottom you say return, and it will now return the result. So if I say select dbo.if in characters, and I pass an Iron Man, you can see it gets a comma separated list of all the characters which were in the Iron Man movie. So that's actually very cool. So now we have this function that gets all the characters. So I'm going to call this view movies and characters, and you can see I'm selecting everything from movies, and on top what we were doing, we were joining movies onto our movie characters table and then movie characters onto the main characters table. But now we have this function. So what I can do, I can just say select, have your movie ID, director ID, we have release here, and we have title, and then I'm going to put this dbo if in characters, and I'm going to pass in the title, and I'll just put this characters. This characters over here is just the name that you give into the column. So, and I run that, and now you can actually see that we have all the movies as well as the character names next to it. And I'll put that into our view, and you can see, so all of these are little, I like to call it like little Lego pieces. So we're creating a view there and a function there and a store procedure, and we can start using them all together to create this one solution over here. So we've covered quite a lot in this video. The views and functions get used a lot. You will definitely be using it within your work. And we actually started looking at some of the string functions as well. So string ag is one of those string functions. It's probably a good time for us to start looking at some of the other string manipulation functions in SQL. So let's head on over there.